Hi, welcome back. We have been looking at finding critical values so that we can find a confidence interval for variance and standard deviation. And now we're going to look at actually finding those confidence intervals. So in our other sections that we've looked at confidence intervals, we've had a best point estimator and we've had plus or minus some error. In this case, for standard deviation and variance, we're not going to have our point estimator plus or minus something. We're going to have our point estimator multiplied by something. And that's something, so our best point estimator for variance is sample variance. And we're going to multiply it by n minus 1 divided by chi-square right for the left-hand side, and n minus 1 over chi-square left for the right-hand side. For standard deviation, we're just going to take all three parts and take the square root of them. The degrees of freedom for all cases are n minus 1, and we're going to round to the same number of decimals as our estimator. So I want to find the 95% confidence interval for the variance and standard deviation of the nicotine content of cigarettes manufactured if 20 cigarettes has a standard deviation of 1.6 milligrams. So I'm going to start pulling information out. My confidence level here is 95%. I have a sample size of 20. So that means my degrees of freedom will be 19. The standard deviation of my sample, I'm told, is 1.6 milligrams. So my variance will be 1.6 squared. So 1.6 squared is 2.56. And those units will be milligrams squared. So I have my point estimators, I have my degrees of freedom, and my sample size. My next thing I need, so I have n s squared. Now I need these critical values. I need to find my chi-square left and chi-square right. So this is my chi-square, and it has 19 degrees of freedom. And I need to find this chi-square left value and chi-square right value. My confidence level is 0.95, so this will be 0.025 out here, and this will also be 0.025 out here. I have my doctored up table here. So I have 19 degrees of freedom, which is here, 95% confidence, so that's going to be the pink. So that is 8.907. Chi-square left will be 8.907, and chi-square right will be 32.852. So those are my two chi-square values. Once I have my values of chi-square, n, s squared, s, I can go ahead and use my formulas. So I've got n minus 1 s squared divided by chi-square right is less than the variance is less than n minus 1 s squared divided by chi-square left. Remember, on the left is chi-square right and on the right is chi-square left. Chi-square right is a bigger number, so when I divide by a bigger number, this will end up being smaller. When I divide by a smaller number, this will end up being larger. If you end up mixing it up and getting them backwards, just switch the two numbers. So this is 20 minus 1 times 2.56 divided by 32.852 is less than the variance is less than 19 times 2.56 divided by 8.907. 19 times 2.56 divided by 32.852 is going to give me 1.48. We've got one decimal here, two decimals for the variance, so 1.48 milligrams squared is less than the variance, is less than 19 times 2.56 divided by 8.907, 5.46 milligrams squared. So I would say we are 95% confident that the true variance in the nicotine content of cigarettes is between 1.48 and 5.46 milligrams squared. Now I have my confidence interval for variance, and you'll notice that for standard deviation I just take the square roots of these. So for variance, I'm going to take the square root of 1.48 is less than standard deviation is less than the square root of 5.46. So the square root of that value is going to be 1.2 is less than the standard deviation. The square root of gives me 2.3. These are in milligrams. So I could say we are 95% confident that the true standard deviation in the nicotine content of cigarettes is between 1.2 milligrams and 2.3 milligrams. And that's a complete problem. We are 95% confident that the true variance in the nicotine content of cigarettes is between 1.48 and 5.46 milligrams squared, or we are 95% confident that the true standard deviation nicotine content of cigarettes is between 1.2 and 2.3 milligrams.